Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, I'm John, this is many a true and welcome to the conclusion of our special look at Mass Effect and what happens if you try and complete the entire trilogy with no friends. And we've spent 2 games setting this up, killing, ignoring, or alienating all the people who are supposed to be stepping up right now for the dramatic conclusion of their stories. So, how will the game cope with their complete absence? Not well, as it all turns out. So, let's dive in, shall we? The game does start off pretty normally. Anderson and Liara are guaranteed survivors, 1 out of Ashley and Caden have to still be alive, and James and Traynor are brand new, so the opening plays out pretty normally. The Reapers are coming, oh wait they're already here, little trip to Mars to grab Liara and plans for a super weapon, on the way, make sure Ash and James know we aren't friends.
Then you can drop me off at the nearest depot, cause I'm...
Stop it, Lieutenant! You don't want to go, we get it. But this isn't a democracy. You want to hate Cerberus? Fine. But I'm done explaining myself to you.
After that, arriving at the Citadel gives us our first taste of consequences for getting everyone killed in Mass Effect 2. With Dr. Chakwas dead, our only option for a ship doctor is Dr. Michelle from Mass Effect 1. Or, you can just completely ignore her and not bother with a ship's doctor at all, while fighting a war, which I'm sure will work out fine too. We get more of the same on Palaven. Garrus is supposed to meet you here, but of course, he can't. He's dead. And also, we only met him maybe 4 times in the entire trilogy. On this occasion, the plot can move along without him pretty easily, but that's not always gonna be the case. Interestingly, Liara does have a comment about poor dead Garrus, one that kind of overlooks the fact that, in this universe, the 2 of them literally never met.
Where would Garrus have been in all this?
Pissed. And right in the thick of it.
If they'd only listened to your warnings about the Reaper's Shepherd.
Still, things work out just fine without him, we rescue the Primarch and do a deal, get the Krogan on side, and we've got ourselves a Turian fleet. First though, Edie becomes a sexy robot, giving us a new compulsory companion, and I take a moment to notice how bloody full up the death board is already, and start wondering whether I could get so many people killed that we run out of room. Surkesh, however, is where all the dead people start really becoming a problem, and Mass Effect 3's plot starts to come off the rails a bit. You see, this entire section is really about 2 characters. Rex, and his hope that the Krogan can recover from what was done to them and find a place as a unified species alongside the rest of the galaxy, and Mordin, who has to resolve his guilt over his role in the genophage. But both of those characters are already dead. So, what happens? Instead of Rex, his brother Reeve attends the conference as leader of the Krogan. We could have already met him in Mass Effect 2, but we never went to the Krogan homeworld, so we just didn't. Reeve, however, I will admit, is a bit of a star in his own right.
I never like talking to Solarians. Not unless they're begging for their life.
No matter what some politician might say, Krogan are still considered a hostile race.
And I'd be more than happy to show you why.
However, on behalf of the Solarian Union, I apologize. But we must insist the Krogan remain under guard.
Wouldn't want any dead Solarians, now would we?
During the meeting, Reeve talks about Malon, a Solarian who tried to develop a partially successful cure to the genophage in Mass Effect 2, who we never met as that's Mordin's loyalty mission. He also shows off security footage from inside a Solarian base, proving that they abducted the fertile Krogan females that came out of this experiment. This raises a lot of questions. In particular, in Mass Effect 2, you learn Malon was working with a different Krogan faction, Clan Warlock, who proudly boast that Malon's work will ensure their dominance over the Krogan, and Reeve in Mass Effect 3 confirms this. He openly says whoever controls the cure controls the entire species.
When I proclaim the genophage cured, the rest of the Krogan will have no choice but to accept my authority.
But as Mordin and Shepard never did the mission, and thus never deleted or took the data, Malon presumably still has it. So why is Reeve in charge? Did he storm the Warlock base and take it? Where's Malon? Is he alive? And who leaked all this information to Reeve? Because that's supposed to be Mordin, but he's already dead. Well, step down to the planet and we get a partial answer. Say hello to Padok Wiks. He does show up in a more traditional game, but only briefly. He does an introduction to the area and then disappears. But in our game, Mordin's dead, and Kirahi, who would also otherwise show up right here, died back in Mass Effect 1, so we've not got many named Solarians left, and a whole bunch of Mordin redemption arc to cover, so Padok just sort of does everything actually. It turns out he was the spy, he joined you in the lab, and he'll be coming back with you to the Normandy to make the cure. But who is this guy? What's his motivation? Morden was involved because he felt a great sense of personal responsibility. As he always said, it had to be him, someone else could have gotten it wrong. Well, Padok gets an entirely new motivation. His reasoning appears to be religious, or possibly philosophical. He seems to believe both that the universe is designed, and that evolution is part of that design, or possibly a method by which it's revealed. He's slightly vague on his thinking.
Why do it?
Every species has their role to play. Centuries from now, the Krogan could be the pinnacle of galactic evolution.
Words I never thought I'd hear a Solarian say.
My work raised more questions than it answered. Now I'm searching for the underlying principle that directs evolution itself.
That sounds vaguely spiritual.
Just open-minded. Discovering the process of evolution is a major breakthrough in any species development. Uncovering its purpose would be paradigm shifting. I went searching for whatever gods created the rules for this unfortunate universe. So much grandeur in creation. It can't be an accident.
As a result, though, he believes the Krogan should be allowed to breed because they might thereby evolve into something more, and these evolved Krogan might be part of some great plan. It's not as compelling as Morden's more personal story, and it's not entirely clear that he even has a background in this sort of science, as he implies his role is in ethics rather than chemistry or genetics, so just chalk that one up to Solarians being extremely smart overall.
What type of work do you do here?
Evolutionary intervention. My government calls it uplifting, guiding the development of other species to suit our own purposes. Until recently, I evaluated life forms to determine whether they were suitable for uplift. I've spent my career planning which species deserve uplift and which do not. There were tremendous stresses for those involved in genophage research. My side of it was all theoretical.
He does, however, have some truly great lines and a slightly unnerving fascination with Krogan breeding.
How is this cure gonna work?
I'm hoping it will inspire a resurgence in Krogan sex. I've always wondered how they mated.
Not what I meant.
No, but you were probably thinking it. And now's our chance. In the interest of science, how do Krogan mate?
Very clumsily.
And there we have it. Could be worth writing a paper someday.
I knew an STG scientist named Morden Solus. Have you heard of him?
Indeed, I once punched him in the face.
You what?
He was still an STG at the time. I postulated there was more to evolution than just random mutation. Morden disagreed. We argued, we drank, then argued some more. Soon enough, a good fracas seemed the best way to settle things.
Who won?
He got a black eye. I broke a few fingers. We called it even and went back to drinking.
Some submissions go a bit differently too. Without Jack, Grissom Academy's plot changes from Jack recovering from her trauma by being a good teacher to focusing on Prangley, who would have just been one of her students, trying to become a leader, though he will always die at the end. This is a common result of importing a file where key characters are dead. Their replacements generally aren't as competent, and thus even more people end up dead in the long run. Arnak Company is even less interesting. Grunt's presumably still in that tank somewhere, as he was still on the ship when it was returned to the Alliance, so a new Krogan called Dag fills his spot, and the mission goes much the same way, including the Rannoch Queen showing up even though we killed her in Mass Effect 1, because the Reapers just sort of rebuilt her or something. Yeah, the Rannoch plot has one of the most disappointing payoffs in Mass Effect 3, though, hilariously, the game does play some really sad music on Dag's sacrifice, as it reuses Grunt's exact scene, even though we only met Dag 5 minutes ago.
The shuttle's down that path. I'll hold them off. Go, Commander!
Alright, cool. Bye, whatever your name was. Also, I forgot to mention, obviously, the easiest way to not make friends with Javik is just not wake him up. So he just stays in the mint condition box team with Grunt and Legion. Plus, I just really like the idea of waking him up after we've already defeated the Reapers. At which point, the Prothean personification of revenge will wake up with nothing to get any revenge on, meaning he has no choice but to adapt to civilian life. That sounds like a good setup for a Mass Effect sitcom right there. Now at this point we could help out the Turian Primarch or attack various Cerberus installations, or we could just skip to the end of the Krogan business and deal with the cure. So let's do that to avoid Victus or Reeve getting the impression we're buddies. By a fun coincidence though, this exact method actually gives you one of the best possible amounts of war score. Sabotage the cure and the Solarians are on board. If Rex was alive, he'd discover the sabotage, but Reeve isn't smart enough to realise, so you get to keep the Krogan too. And with Eve dead and Reeve in charge, Padok Wiks could be persuaded to stand down and join the Crucible project. Unfortunately, I've got a bit too attached to him, and that means there's a risk he could become a friend, and that means he has to go on the corpse pile too. Interestingly, he doesn't make it as far as Mordin does, who would successfully crawl almost to the console after being shot in the back. Padok meanwhile just dies in the elevator. Apparently he just didn't want it as much. This brings us to the Cerberus Citadel attack, which offers significant changes and also some fun opportunities. In Kyling's first appearance, for example, the Solarian Councillor is supposed to be saved by Thane. If Thane's dead, Kirahi steps in and saves her. Unfortunately, both are dead, so she actually does die in this universe. Shepard then becomes surprised and angry that Udina is leading a coup to kill the Council and take control of the Citadel, which is certainly an interesting position for this Shepard to take, given my Shepard has previously heard Udina say,
"The Citadel fleets were decimated in the attack. The losses have made the Alliance stronger. If we step forward now, nobody will be able to stop us."
The Council was always holding us back. When I saw the opportunity to get rid of them, I took it.
The new Council must rule with a single voice. It must be assembled from one species alone, humanity.
Yeah, I feel like my Shepard saw this coming. Still, this does give us the opportunity to get our first big kill of the run, as Ashley's guarding the Council, and thus, 2 games later than usual...
Weapon down, Commander. It'll help your case a lot.
Damn it, Ash.
Counselor, get the door.
I will say though, she is surprisingly gracious about her own murder, given how rude I've consistently been to her.
Had to take a stand, Shepard. You taught me that.
And so with Ashley dead, Garrus dead last game and Javik still in a box, we're still stuck on only 3 companions. A couple of side missions do play out mostly the same. With Samara dead, her replacement, Morant, makes no appearance at the Asari Monastery, though a note does indicate she tried to reach her sisters at some point, while Liara's computer lets you see what she actually tried to send, encouraging them to escape in the future, and also lying to them about the circumstances of Samara's death. As for the ex-Cerberus scientists, they don't even bother to mention Jacob on what should be his own mission. He's just that boring. This brings us to the Geth and Quarian business, which is another tricky one for the game, as it's also a personal mission about Tali and Legion. Tali's dead, we literally never met Legion, and we never did any of the missions that indicate the Geth are more than evil killbots. So, how does it go in this universe? Well, Tali isn't replaced by a new admiral. There are just 4 admirals instead of the usual 5, and as someone needs to be with you to fill all of Tali's bits of the script, Admiral Zen takes her place. Joker and Shepard do mention Tali in passing though.
Tali would have loved seeing this.
Well, let's win this one for her.
Zen is a fun character however, and she just seems to have a lovely time assaulting the Geth dreadnoughts.
The Geth sent reinforcements to the bridge, but they were quite amenable to one of my hacking routines. They're doing a lovely dance right now. In a moment, they're going to serve refreshments.
As for Legion, he gets replaced with a Geth VI, and for once the script was actually ready for me. I really appreciate that, as my Shepard never had the opportunity to learn about the Geth. I'm hugely suspicious of this one immediately, as my Shepard would have no reason not to be.
Freeing us will end the signal. You may then destroy us if you deem it necessary.
Fine. We'll get you out. Weapons ready. If this thing so much as twitches.
The Geth VI, however, is probably the most disappointing replacement character in all of Mass Effect 3. It lacks the small touches that made up Legion's personality, and instead comes across as a very bland character. Anyway, we do the server mission first, thereby opening up the finale and letting us skip rescuing Admiral Chorus, thus bringing the Admiralty board down to 3 members. And so we get to the conclusion of Rannoch, murder a Reaper and choose a side, as a peaceful resolution is now impossible. Though, strangely, the Admiral that shows up to replace Tali isn't Zen, but rather Ran. They kind of split Tali's duties between the two. Regardless, as the Geth fleet is now demonstrably stronger than the Quarians, we go with them, leading to Ran taking her own life, though unlike Dag, she doesn't just reuse Tali's animation jumping off the cliff, instead she has her own animation with her pistol. And just as a sad note, if you were instead to favour the Quarians at this point, Tali's bittersweet moment of telling Legion he does have a soul instead plays out like this.
We were correct to distrust organics. Uploading the code.
I knew it would turn on us. A pity. It seemed so sincere.
Next up is Thessia, but first the game starts panicking. You see, it knows Horizon is coming up soon, where the main personal conflict is about Miranda and her father and sister. Unfortunately, we've never met Miranda's family, and actually we never even spoke to her about them, and also Miranda's dead. This should mean that without Miranda's interference, Miranda's father got Oriana back during the events of Mass Effect 2, and as Mass Effect 2 makes clear, Oriana only learns about Miranda if Shepard encourages her to speak to Oriana. Unfortunately, the game gets a bit confused here, and rapidly tries to get the plot caught up by having Oriana write Shepard an email because she'd heard that I'd worked with Miranda. Which is interesting, because how does she know about Miranda? How does she know about a private suicide mission conducted by Cerberus? And where did she get my email address from? Whatever the case, it seems the events of Mass Effect 2 did play out correctly, though we'll get back to that shortly. Instead, we need to wrap up Thessia. I also noticed something rather cool at this point, which is, if you play the game this way, who's actually left? James, Edie, and Liara. A soldier, a tech, and a biotic. In other words, coverage for all types of ability, no matter what role your Shepard has. So, that's nice, that's really well thought through. Well done, BioWare. Anyway, we finally get back to Horizon, where Shepard just sort of knows about Miranda's family now. I guess she googled it after that email. With no Miranda, however, the mission's mostly just blasting through husks. Though, I do enjoy how confused James gets at the concept that the refugee camp filled with Cerberus troops and Reapers might have something sinister going on.
What am I seeing here? Those are the refugees. The Reapers, what are they doing? They're killing them.
On the other hand, the resolution is unintentionally hilarious. With no Miranda to get involved in the final confrontation with Henry Lawson, if you do literally nothing, Oriana and her dad just sort of fall out of the window.
Let me go!
Oriana!
No!
That's the end of the mission. But this is the moment I've been waiting for. It's the last moment before the end game, and that means it's time for the Citadel DLC, a celebration of all your friends and allies in a universe where they're all dead. It all starts off fairly normally, though weirdly Liara started flirting with me because the game seemed to not even consider the possibility that I wouldn't be romancing anybody at this point.
I like your outfit. Control panel, right.
But then the fun begins, as the game struggles to comprehend that everybody's dead.
I found some folks who actually like being shot at.
Permission to come aboard, Shepard?
And it's one person. It's literally one extra teammate, guys. I wouldn't panic. Also, because the game's script calls for there to be 3 squads, and James and Liara are with me, with Edie and Brooks as the second team, there was literally nobody left alive to be on Cortez's team, so he's just got some generic guy who never gets a name with him. And finally, we get to what I've been waiting for. The saddest party in Mass Effect history, featuring a couple of people in the lounge, another 2 in the kitchen, and the rest of the house is pretty much empty. It's just sad. Every stage of the party, I have to hunt through my own house, trying to find my own party guests, ultimately leading to the saddest, most spaced out party photo ever. And so to the end game in the Cerberus base. Now, as he was sold to Cerberus, a corrupted form of Legion is supposed to appear in this room, but he just sort of, didn't, because the game is barely holding together anymore. Meanwhile, in the final fight, you're supposed to take out Kai Lang while saying it was for somebody who Kai Lang killed. Unfortunately, Kai Lang never had the opportunity to kill anybody I loved, because I kinda got to all of them first, so instead Shepard has a much more naff voice line.
No gunship this time, you son of a bitch.
There was a gunship when they met on Thessia, by the way. It's a terrible one-liner. With that done, it's back to Earth and it's time for the end. But there's one crucial bit of setup to do. We have to select James and Liara as our companions. You'll see why shortly. Cortez dies almost immediately because we still need to fill up that wall, and Morinth makes her only appearance in the game here. Yeah, she just dies off screen and gets converted into a banshee. And hilariously, if you try and speak to the comms tech, who lets you call up your friends to say goodbye...
Yes, Commander. Is there someone you'd like to reach?
I'm done.
Yes, ma'am.
Nah, Shepard's done with having friends. There simply aren't any left. Reeve shows up to declare he's taking Australia as payment for his services, and it turns out my relationship with my companions is so poor that the cutscene where you call down the Normandy to rescue one of them doesn't even happen. Instead, James and Liara just get melted by a Reaper beam. Much like Mass Effect 2, it appears they just didn't like me enough to not die. The Elusive Man and Anderson go on the kill count next, and then we're off to destroy the Reapers, with a strong implication that the destroy ending will also exterminate the Geth, together with a whole bunch of organics, and me too as a result of all the tech that's keeping me alive after the opening of Mass Effect 2. But we'll be going for that ending anyway. After all, it does save the galaxy from the greatest threat of all, Shepard herself. Plus, there's one other crucial detail. Remember how we just brought along James and Liara to die? That means we're down to one single living companion, Edie, who is currently on the Normandy. This destroy ending will kill her, meaning it took us to the third game, but we have left nobody alive. And this here is the crucial moment. This is where the game just straight up breaks. Because when they were making this game, it seems they just didn't test what would happen if there was nobody left to act out the ending. Now, it starts off pretty modestly. For example, Joker's supposed to be told he needs to retreat, because he's determined to wait for Shepard, but with no companions left, Traynor has to step in. But it would appear they never bothered to record the voice line for her, so she just sort of stands there, and Joker reacts to nothing. Okay, bit odd, but it mostly still makes sense. Well, it's all down a hill from here. As Joker gets out of the crashed Normandy, the camera pans over to... nobody. There are no companions left to stand next to him, but they just set up the scene in the camera assuming there had to be someone. I think I may have killed more people than BioWare anticipated was possible. This then leads to an unintentionally hilarious memorial ceremony with only 2 mourners, mainly because all the people who should be at the ceremony are already dead and on the death board. This, by the way, is how we're able to confirm that James, Liara and Edie are all dead, though I have no idea why Traynor, who we only met a few weeks ago and barely spoke to, is given the big emotional memorial duty over Joker, who has literally been here from the beginning. The game also shifts the camera at this point for a sad companion reaction shot, but there's no one left to react, so once again, we just get to enjoy some empty space. The scene is just broken. Tragically, we can confirm the board does still have several open slots. Now, in theory, we could have added on Legion and Grunt. Samara's also absent as she never officially died, so it may be possible to completely fill up the death board, but I'm not 100% sure how you do it, as even that would still leave 2 slots open. And as a final kick in the teeth, there simply aren't enough people left on board to repair her, so I guess Joker and Traynor just live here now. Wherever this is. That's it. That's the end. Enjoy your new planet. At least Shepard can't hurt you anymore. And so, in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, can you beat Mass Effect with no friends? Just about. But Shepard's dead, so's almost everyone that Shepard ever met. The Normandy appears to be lost forever. Rannoch is confirmed as an empty wasteland with nobody left who wants it. The Krogan are going to realise about the deception sooner or later, so that's another war to look forward to. The game itself is falling apart, and the only named survivors out of all of our companion and crew are Joker and Traynor. So, you can beat Mass Effect without friends, but you definitely shouldn't. Good night, everybody. Ah, we have got a gate key here, and then we have got I've made a mistake, I've made a mistake, I've made a mistake, I've made a mistake! This is going to take all of my skill and cunning as a hunter to sort out. Die, you mooing bastards! Die! Die! Go away. Go away, nobody likes you. That was a good idea till it wasn't.